Hello, fellow egoists! Today we'll be discussing the concept of MetaVision, its uses, see which players have already unlocked this ability, and what the differences are for each user. Before getting in, I'll warn you, there will be manga spoilers for up to chapter 218. MetaVision is first introduced in chapter 182, nicely titled MetaVision. MetaVision, or MV for short, is an ability that relies on three stats from the player using it: their field of vision, spatial awareness, and football IQ. The process of MetaVision is simple in concept. The player gets as much information as possible by using their wide field of vision and turning their head at some intervals. The player then uses their spatial awareness to create a mental map of the field using the information they gained. And the final part, which is the most important to a great use of MetaVision, is then finding the best play by using your football IQ to process all that information. What makes MetaVision such a great ability is that it gives you an entire sandbox to play in. You have all the tools at hand, and the limit of your plays is your technical ability to act on your idea. It's basically the ultimate dimension a person could reach in terms of understanding the field. Not only that, but the stats needed to develop it the way players like Isagi and Kaiser have are some of the highest a football player could hope to have. The raw power your brain needs to have to compute all the information from the 24 players on the field is simply incredible. To give you a rough idea of the scale of all this information, let's imagine the situation. You first need to look around the field fastly and accurately enough that you can create a mental image of the field at your instant T. Depending on how much information you input for each player, the amount of information in general goes through the roof. For example, if you try to track the direction of their run, their field of vision at the time T, on top of the place they are already in, you're getting 96 variables to track in real time. And this is taking the mental image as 2D instead of 3D, so if you start going for a 3D mental map like Isagi does, then the number of variables explodes exponentially. This type of mental computing process can be done by reflex, so the mental strain can be lowered, but the workload is still really big. The hardest part comes after that. You then need to use your football IQ to process all this information and find the best path to your goal. The number of outcomes possible is already growing before you can even start to think about the next thing to do, and this all needs to happen in milliseconds. After you finally inputted all the information and found the best path to take, you need to remember that this play only works for up to a time t plus t1, where t1 is the time you needed to reach the play you envisioned. So during t1 you still need to scan the field and compute what play you might want to create after you've reached the time t plus t1. And this is without counting on your technical ability to then act on set vision of the future. With this explanation, I hope you understand just how strong of an ability MetaVision is, but also how high the requirements to be able to use it, like the way Isagi does in a match, are. Even for elite football players, it takes years to master this type of computing method, and even those who can reach such a level are few and far between. Which is also a testament to how big of a genius Isagi is. This guy not only deduced this type of thinking process just from seeing Kaiser run and turn around his head, but then managed in only one play to reach the level of the second top genius of his generation in terms of playmaking. And this is only the beginning of his super awakening, so imagine the beast he'll turn into later on. So with this explanation, you must start to understand just how hard it would be to use MetaVision at a level where it's a gigantic bonus to your playstyle, like Isagi and Kaiser use it, and just how rare are players who can use it at such a level are. So to summarize before moving on to the next point, let's recap the steps needed to use MetaVision. For the first step, you must get as much information as possible by using your wide field of vision and turning your head at some intervals. For the second step, you must use your spatial awareness to create a mental map of the field using your information that you gain. And for the final step, you must find the best play to make by processing all of this using your football IQ. So with this, we can easily understand that there are multiple levels to MetaVision. The better the vision, the more information you can gain. The better your spatial awareness is, the more accurate your mental map of the field will be. And the better your football IQ, the more options you can reach and the faster you can get there. So while MetaVision is an incredible weapon, not all MetaVision users are equal. The level of MetaVision that Isagi has at the end of the Menshine City match is currently unmatched in the Blue Lock facility. At least if we don't count the Master Strikers. Or maybe Rain, but we'll see. As said in chapter 218, Niko tapped into a quality of MetaVision he did not ever reach before just by following the off-the-ball movement of Isagi and how the ball was going around. After all, a midfielder doesn't think the same way a defender does, just like a defender doesn't think the same way a striker does. This is why chapter 218 may have seemed boring to a lot of people, but it was so important in the grand scheme of things. It's a chapter that shows that different methods can still get you at the same outcome and that there is not only one way of seeing things, which is a problem that Isagi has had for a long time. A sort of god complex, if you will, where he can't think outside of his box and has to have people that think outside of his thought process to highlight this to him. An example being when he discovered egocentrism from Yuki. It seems obvious to us, but to Isagi this is an epiphany because he couldn't imagine that people had a different thought process from him. This is a deeply flawed way of thinking that is slowly getting fixed chapters through chapters. Enough about Isagi though. Now that we've seen what MetaVision is, its uses and how to get better at it, we can move on to the players who have been shown to use it so far. But before that, if you've enjoyed the breakdown of MetaVision so far, I highly recommend reading the posts made by Bad Guy from there on Reddit who analyzed some MetaVision seeds. I'll link it in the comments, but I truly encourage you to read them. They're simply incredible. Let's look at all the players who have been shown to use MetaVision so far and that may develop it further down the line. The first player to ever use MetaVision in the manga has been Isagi during the first selection. After being trash talked close to the point of seizure from the mad lad Karasu, our protagonist steps into flow and scores the final goal of the match, beating even Rin and Shido at their game of who scores first. The second player to have been shown using MetaVision was Niko in the U20 match when defending against Sendo. The third player who was explicitly shown to use it was Aiku while destroying single-handedly the attack from Blue Lock. The next player and the one who first showed just how terrifying of an ability MetaVision is was Sae Itoshi, single-handedly carrying the U20 match during the first half but also throwing it during the second. And if we've got one of the Genius brothers, why not the other? And so Itoshi Rin has also been shown to be able to use MetaVision. A lot of MetaVision users, but we have to note that all of them except for Sae use this ability by instinct. After this we get the Neo-Egoist League arc where we get two more MetaVision users, those being Kaiser, the best striker from the U20 division, and God's Chosen Emperor, and Reo, the chameleon, awakening it during the Manchester City match after going back to his toxic relationship with Nagi. Seeing that we have been getting one MetaVision user per game with Niko awakening it during the Uber's match, we can probably expect a MetaVision user from PXG. A player who is currently a candidate to unlock this ability is Hiyori. He has been shown to be able to input information from his surroundings pretty well and also got a TED talk from Isagi about the MetaVision's concept, on top of generally getting parallels with Sae, which is a point I'll touch on during another video. Now that we've seen all the MetaVision users, we can now put a bigger attention to detail to the ones who have been shown to have special designs on their MetaVision pupils. The four players we'll touch on in this part are in order Niko, Aiku, Reo and Isagi. The general explanation for each of their MetaVision design will be based on their football philosophy. What were the playstyles of Niko and Aiku respectively during the U20 match? For Niko it was about being a watchtower, destroying plays before they could be made, and for Aiku it was about being a critical safeguard who stops any attack from coming into the final third of the field. So in this sense, their MetaVision eyes are meant to represent a radar. They scan the field looking for the critical safe point in their defense and shield it before a grave mistake can be made. One difference between the two is that Aiku has more circles in his MetaVision design, and this is actually from the fact that his ego at that moment is stronger than ever. In general, in the Blue Lock universe, the stronger one's ego is at a certain moment, the more circles in their eyes they have to represent it. Examples being Bachira during his awakening or Isagi while facing Ego. As for the chameleon or Kukleon as I like to call him, his eyes are meant to represent exactly that, a chameleon watching his prey, here there being Nagi. On a quick side note, Rhea's MetaVision may seem to be an awakening rather than him copying MetaVision from either Kaiser or Isagi. After all, chameleons are known for their 360-degree field of vision, so in this sense it's normal for Reo in theme to discover MetaVision. And finally, the all-seeing god himself, Isagi. Isagi's puzzle pieces are actually here to represent what seems to be his football philosophy. Each games are a puzzle with scattered pieces that you need to find during its duration. After getting all the pieces you can easily move around the field and scoring goals becomes just a matter of technique. Now the main thing that most people may have noticed is that Isagi's color palette for MetaVision is actually reversed. Whereas characters tend to have black lines on a white background, Isagi has white lines on a black background, though the background isn't totally black, it's actually the spiral eyes. Now if you haven't seen my video about spiral eyes, which I highly recommend watching it to fully understand the explanation I'm about to give, but if you haven't, Let's give a quick recap. Spiralize seems to represent the original ego of a player surfacing back into their minds. So with this we can deduce that Isagi is slowly but surely awakening his original ego while using MetaVision. Everything seems to point to this. From the speed at which he understood and got proficient using MetaVision, to the way his growth has been exponential ever since he acquired it. And if you haven't sold on this yet, I'll remind you one thing. When was the last time we saw someone have white lines over their spiral eyes? Rin during his awakening in the U20 match. So with all this we can expect Isagi to awaken his original ego, and I've even got a theory on what it will be and when it will awaken. I'll link it in the comments. If you watched up to this point, then thank you though. It's a pleasure to know I've managed to captivate your attention for this long, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Quick shout out again to Bad Guy from there on Reddit for his analysis on MetaVision, which I once again highly recommend you read. All the songs and external resources that have been used in this video can be found in the comments, and if I forget one, just ask me, I'll link it. With all this said, I hope you have a great day and stay tuned for more videos. The next one will probably be related to either Isagi's original ego or how there may be a way to enter flow on command. With all that said, have a good one, fellow egoists!